Um, Amit, I would like you to answer this one. So why must digital and financial inclusion be priorities for achieving a just world? And what does that mean to you?
Thanks for the question. It's a hugely important, central to the discussion here. And I think Rhonda hit on a couple of those elements that really come from and are stemmed from already embedded systemic biases. So one point I just wanted to as part of that question that I wanted to emphasize, but take off of Rhonda's point. Think about the gender gap that Lourdes had talked about in engagement with financial services broadly, technology specifically. But there have been, since the pandemic really exacerbated itself in many markets, there has been a default, in fact, net exit by women from the formal economy because of the push to remote learning and the like. That's not good for anyone, right? And so we already had a systemic issue in gender inequality in the workplace, and you have many families therefore forced to make now these binary choices in an increased forced remote digital world. And unfortunately, many default to the women's traditional gender role as going back to ensuring that the households kept and taking themselves out of income generative opportunities. That can't stand. The second is, in terms of the inclusive global economy, we're forgetting a very important aspect of global job growth, right? Financial technology companies, but technology companies broadly, are not only working to deliver seamless, near real-time, cheaper, more cost and transaction efficient services to underserved communities. They're also employing them. Technology companies have a global footprint. So we no longer are bound jurisdictionally that way. So we can actually afford to and easily engage and employ individuals in multiple markets, regardless of where our home jurisdiction is and regardless of where our clients' counterparties are. And so that is a huge boon for driving inclusion, not just in terms of service delivery, but actually service creation. And that's an important thing. So job growth itself is really tied to this. From an inclusivity perspective, at the end of the day, we talked a little bit about the inherent biases that have plagued financial services, right? Low, moderate income, women, immigrants, minorities, et cetera, have been, unfortunately, in the disproportionately negatively impacted. What we have to be really careful about as we move forward with some of these advanced technologies, advanced analytics and the like, that we're not just taking legacy traditional data and now spinning up because of its machine learning and AI engine says, hey, I can now provide credit and lending services to these populations. If we're working off of old legacy biased data, we are going to have biased results and just exacerbate that problem. So in terms of broader inclusivity, we need to work from that side. And the final issue I would say to your question on why it's an important issue is twofold. My background is in the national security space. If we truly are wanting to build national and economic security, that starts with resilience. That means more people engaged in the formal economy, not less. And there's two inherent biases that we have to contend with, right? The first one is the bias against small, medium enterprise. That is a fact and continues to be exacerbated by these programs, including many governments like the USG. If we are looking at modernizing access, we need to have small and medium enterprises as part of the solution for delivery, not only the recipients of that delivery. And it cannot be dominated by the bulge bracket entities that end up having the cash flow, the resilience, the personnel footprint, et cetera, to dominate these economies. We have to actually engage proactively as a program, small and medium enterprises as part of the solution set in that regard. The good news is, by doing so, we're actually creating employment opportunities, financial access opportunities, cross-border opportunities for the most disproportionately impacted or marginalized from a financial services context. And by doing that, more access begets financial resilience, allows us to build financial and responsible health at the individual and household level, but also at the organizational level. And that inherently drives down systemic risk, increases transparency, and builds to our broader national security objectives. So too often we look at global growth or resilience in a binary way. Can I have safety and security, or can I have inclusion? And we would argue that you cannot have safety and security without a concerted impact and effect and drive for inclusion. And we need to be testing, auditing, and rewarding inclusive efforts as part of that resilience strategy, not simply as a trade-off or an ancillary benefit.